Lakers Nation, what is going on? So in today's video we have some Lakers trade news that could completely change the way this team looks defensively. And this one comes from Heavy.com. The Lakers have already had a pretty interesting offseason, but after missing out on Jonathan Kuminga, there is still one major hole that stands out. Small forward. More specifically, the Lakers need somebody who can defend the best perimeter players in the Western Conference. And Heavy.com has highlighted a trade idea that would bring former all-defensive wing Herb Jones to Los Angeles. Now, before we get into the trade itself, I want to give you my opinion, because honestly this is the type of move that makes a lot of sense for the Lakers basketball-wise. But there is one massive problem. The price. According to the trade idea, the Lakers would receive Herb Jones. The Pelicans would receive Dalton Knecht Jaden Hardy, a 2032 first-round pick swap and 3 second-round picks. So basically the Lakers would be giving up almost everything they still have available in the draft asset department. And that is where this trade gets really interesting. Because if you are the Lakers, you are not making this move because you need another scorer. You are making this move because you need defense. Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves are going to carry a huge offensive responsibility for this team. The Lakers added several offensive-minded players this offseason, including Quentin Grimes, Colin Sexton and Sandro Mamukelashvili. There is definitely going to be plenty of scoring. But the bigger question is, who is going to stop the other teams? Last season the Lakers finished with the 16th ranked defense. And that is not good enough if your goal is to seriously compete in the Western Conference. Especially when you are building everything around Luka. Luka can give you elite offense. Austin can give you scoring and playmaking. Walker Kessler gives you size and rim protection. But you still need somebody on the wing who can take the toughest defensive assignment every single night. That is where Herb Jones comes in. Herb is exactly the type of player the Lakers have been missing. He can defend multiple positions. He can guard bigger wings. He can bother guards. And he does not need the ball in his hands to impact the game. That last part is extremely important. Because when you play next to Luka Doncic, you do not need to dominate the basketball to have value. You need to know how to move. You need to defend. You need to hit open shots. And you need to make the game easier for your stars. Herb has also continued improving offensively. Heavy.com points out that he averaged 1.4 made threes per game last season. And I think that number could become even more interesting next to Luka. Luka is one of the best players in the league at creating open shots for teammates. Defenses are going to collapse on him. They are going to send help. And when that happens, Herb could find himself standing wide open on the perimeter. If he can consistently knock those shots down, then suddenly teams cannot just ignore him. And that makes him even more valuable. But for me, the biggest reason the Lakers should consider this trade is the defensive identity. Imagine a lineup where Herb Jones is taking the toughest wing assignment. Walker Kessler is protecting the rim. Jared Vanderbilt is bringing defensive energy. And Luka and Austin are handling the offense. That is a much more balanced team. Instead of trying to win every game by simply scoring more points, the Lakers would actually have somebody who can help them win games when the offense is not clicking. And that matters in the playoffs. Because eventually you are going to run into teams with multiple elite scorers. You cannot expect Luka to carry the offense every single night and then ask him to also be the primary defensive answer. You need players around him who cover those weaknesses. And Herb Jones would give them exactly that. Now let's talk about why the Pelicans would even consider doing this. Because from New Orleans' perspective, this is not simply giving away a good player. They are getting a pretty significant return. The Pelicans have reportedly wanted at least 2 first-round picks for Herb Jones. This proposed deal does not give them multiple first-round picks outright. But they would receive a 2032 first-round pick swap along with 3 second-round picks. They would also get Dalton Knecht and Jaden Hardy. And that is where this gets interesting for New Orleans. The Pelicans already have a young core. They have Zion Williamson, Trey Murphy, Benedict Mathurin, Jordan Hawkins, and several other young players. So moving Herb could give them more opportunities to develop younger offensive talent. Knecht gives them another young shooter. Hardy gives them another young guard who can create his own offense. And the draft assets give them more flexibility down the road. There is also the financial side. Heavy.com points out that Herb is entering a 3-year $67 million extension. That means New Orleans is committing significant money to a player whose biggest strength is defense. And by the 2029-30 season he is scheduled to make around $24 million. The Pelicans could look at that contract and decide that now is the time to move him while his value is still high. That does not mean Herb is a bad player. Actually, it is the complete opposite. His value is high because he is one of the better defensive wings in basketball. But sometimes teams have to make decisions based on roster construction. If New Orleans believes their young offensive core is the future, then moving Herb for younger pieces and draft flexibility could make sense. Now here is where I personally stand on this trade. If I am the Lakers, I absolutely understand the idea. Herb Jones is the type of player I would want next to Luka. But I would have to think very carefully before giving up the 2032 first-round swap. Because the Lakers have already sacrificed a lot of their future draft flexibility. And once you start giving away the remaining assets, you cannot easily get them back. So this would have to be the move that pushes the Lakers into serious contention. You cannot make this trade just because Herb Jones is a good player. You make it because you believe he can be one of the final pieces of a championship-level roster. And I think that is the real debate. Is Herb Jones worth essentially the rest of the Lakers' tradable draft assets? For me, I would seriously consider it. Because defense has to become a priority. The Lakers already have Luka. They already have Austin. They have Kessler. They have scoring. What they need is balance. And Herb gives them balance. The Lakers cannot afford to build another roster where everybody can score but nobody can consistently defend the other team's best perimeter players. That was one of the concerns last season. And Heavy.com even referenced an NBA scout who basically questioned whether this new Lakers group can defend well enough. That is something JJ Redick is going to have to solve. And adding Herb Jones would make that job a whole lot easier. He would give JJ a player who can be thrown onto different matchups without completely changing the defensive scheme. And that flexibility is extremely valuable. Especially in the Western Conference. So when I look at this proposed trade, I understand both sides. The Lakers get a starting-level defensive wing who fits next to Luka perfectly. The Pelicans get younger players' draft flexibility and the opportunity to give more responsibility to their young offensive core. The biggest question is simply the price. If the Lakers believe Herb Jones is the missing defensive piece, then maybe you pay it. If they believe they can get similar defensive production for a cheaper price, then they should probably hold on to those assets. But after missing out on Jonathan Kuminga, the Lakers still have a clear need at small forward. And Herb Jones might be one of the cleanest basketball fits available. He does not need to be the star. He does not need 20 shots. He just needs to defend, rebound, hit open threes, and make life easier for Luka. And honestly, that is exactly what this Lakers roster needs. So shout out to Heavy.com for putting this trade idea on the table. Because this is definitely a move Lakers fans should be talking about. Let me know what you think. Would you give up Dalton Knecht Jaden Hardy, the 2032 first-round pick swap, and the 3 second-round picks for Herb Jones? Or is that simply too much for the Lakers to give up? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications for more Lakers news and trade rumors.